Hey, congratulations on your new movie.
Thank you very much.
Long Gone Heroes is quite a different movie than some of your previous movies that I have watched with you and spoke with you in the past. So let's start with this first. Where the original story came from for Long Gone Heroes?
Well, it was a script that existed before I came involved. I was brought on about a month before we started shooting, and the script was not in good shape. So, I was given leeway to rewrite it before we shot. So, the script was kind of developed and written on the fly leading up to the shoot. So, I did as much research as I could and tried to use the resources that I had available to me to create something that I thought would be a compelling action movie. So,
So what were some of the major changes that you wanted to make sure that you put into Long Gone Heroes?
well, I wanted the script to make sense first and foremost, and the original script that I was given uh, didn't make any sense at all, and it was a mess. And the characters were kind of all over the place, and half of it took place in a cave. Um, so I've made enough movies by now to understand how hard it is to make a movie and how different environments create different challenges. So when I read the script and I read that half of it took place in a cave, I was like, well, that's going to be really difficult to do and make it believable. So I made the cave. I switched that to urban warfare, as you see in the movie, where we're on the streets of Venezuela and fighting. I thought that's more interesting. It also, frees us up a lot to do some interesting things with action. I changed some of the characters. I changed the location. I changed a lot about the script, and for me, it was about keeping it as simple as possible in terms of the story arc, which is this journalist is taken, and now we've got to go get her and bring her back. It's a pretty classic, cliched story in a lot of ways, but the way you make it different is the nuances with the relationships and of the characters and their journey throughout. So that was really what I was interested in was these characters, these archetypes of characters. How can I make them interesting? How can I make us buy into them and want to stick with them? And then also, how can I make the action as cool as I can? So it was a unique exercise for me, and it turned out into a movie that I'm very proud of. So.
So true, so true. And this is being the fourth time I spoke to you, we talked a lot about your films here, and the reason why I say it's a little bit different because I'm used to your nitty-gritty type of storytelling here, and aesthetically, cinematography, it also looks a lot different too. Could you talk a bit about that all that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm from middle America. I'm from Oklahoma, and I've shot most of my films in Oklahoma, with the exception of Montana. So, there's a very specific look to both Oklahoma and Montana that's similar, where it's this very specific old Americana look, and this Route 66 look. So obviously Columbia is looks much different than that. So it calls for a different way of shooting. I also had a different DP, Brandon Cox, and a gaffer that was is world class. And so yeah, I mean, this movie was very much a new direction for me or a new genre style. Like I really wanted to approach it as if it was something completely different. And the way it was shot, we shot it anamorphic. We usually shoot my other films in 16 by 9. Um, this was a much bigger movie in terms of scale and the action and locations. So yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested in hearing from you how it's different. I still feel like it's pretty gritty and pretty grimy, and it doesn't shy away from that. But yeah, I'm really interested in people's reactions because I kind of am in my own world. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I can certainly tell you this is that we're not in Oklahoma anymore, and I was getting used to thinking that all your films were just going to be in your backyard or near your backyard. But tell us about your experience, filming it in the other middle America. Central America.
Man, I love it. I love Colombia, and I love the Colombian people. I was embraced by them, and in a way that was really really special. I mean, I'm a very curious person, so when I go somewhere new, I really want to get into it and understand the culture and the food and where they come from and why they are think the way they are. So I tried to do my best to embed myself and ingratiate myself in them, and they were very accepting. And the crews were as good as any crew I've ever worked with, and better in a lot of ways sometimes too. So I loved Columbia, man. And visually, it's like you can point a camera anywhere and it looks great. So it was a lot of fun to write scenes specifically to locations because I would go out and find these looks and then be like, okay, well, there's a lot of action in this movie. A lot of things blow up. And it became a joke on set because I would go somewhere the night before and I'd be like, all right, I think I'm going to do a scene here tomorrow. And I'd like to blow that up. And, my UPM would be like, how many explosions do you want? And I never heard a question asked like that. I was like, well, how many can I have? And he was like, well, I mean, we can do 3 or 4. And, how big do you want? And so it was a new way for me to work and a new level of resources. So I had a lot of fun, man. And I wrote another script for Columbia. I hope I can go back and make it because I really, really love it there.
How did you you know, adjust to being a director in a foreign setting itself? Did you at times feel like a fish out of water, you know, in the production of that in that arena?
Well, I mean, ever since I came out of my mom's womb, I felt like a fish out of water. I've been struggling with that my whole life. So that's a pretty natural complex for me to have. Um, I feel at best when I'm in these kind of strange, high pressure situations. And, there's an obvious language barrier in Colombia. It's not like Mexico where people know English. I mean, nobody knows English in Colombia. So it really helped me hone my skills in terms of communication because I know no Spanish. I'm like, I'm a hillbilly pretty much. So I had to learn how to be very specific with what I wanted and how I wanted to do things and how to communicate without words a lot of the time, which is its own language. So I'd say the biggest learning curve was just not being able to necessarily communicate verbally, but being able to point to things, show things, you know, and just learn a shorthand without language was really interesting. But once we got there, it was honestly one of the more special experiences I've had. So
That is so wonderful. And I know I spoke to you in the past about your casting and because first of all, you love working with familiar talent and actors. And in fact, you worked with Frank. I don't even know how many times you worked with Frank. Uh,
five, I think five. Yeah.
five times, and just to add, I think you worked with George Carroll multiple times too. Wow, seven times.
I think it might be eight. I don't know, but I know it's at least seven. Yeah. So yeah.
Uh, tell us about bringing these familiar faces into your world. I mean, it's always something about working with I want to say friends in this
Yeah.
case.
Yeah. No, they are. I mean, George and I go back 10 plus years, and our relationship is started outside of. I mean, I guess that we met via some film friends, but I have a very close relationship with George on a personal level. We're very close friends, and Frank, it started as a film relationship. He did Body Brokers with me, and then Ida Red, and we became very close. I know his kids. He knows my family. He knows my wife. I mean, he's like an uncle in a weird way, or some kind of relative. I value his counsel. I value, him as a man, and as a person and as an actor. And then, the Melissa Leos, it's the same. I've known her for, I guess, about 10 years now, and we've done 4 or 5 movies. And, you know, making movies is hard. It's hard. It's not for the faint of heart. And a lot of times there's no glory in it, so if you're gonna do it and kill yourself to make these things, it makes it a little bit more tolerable if you can do it with your friends, and most of the time I work with my one of my best friends, and producer, Jeremy. um and from there, it's peppering in these actors that are, dear friends of mine as well. So I'm very fortunate in that regard, but I also attribute to, what success I've had is all because of the friends I have, and their willingness, to want to keep, doing this all together. So
So true, John. So John, what's up next with you? Are you ever going to return to filmmaking in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
yeah, so I shot this movie, Long Gone Heroes, in Colombia, and I got on a plane and I flew to Tulsa and I shot another movie the next week. I started on another movie called King Ivory, which we just premiered at the Venice Film Festival last week, and will be released. We're waiting to find out when, but that's what's next, and that's a Tulsa movie, and it's up there with my favorite films I've ever done. It's a very special movie. So that's what's next, and then I'm hopefully going to get back to work here this fall. I'm getting itchy, getting antsy, man. I need to get back to work, so I'm excited to find out whatever that job's going to be.
You know it, John, it is so wonderful to speak to you again. For this Long Gone Heroes is a terrific movie. And I can never stop talking about and stop watching your films. And hopefully we get to do this for the fifth time. And probably can next, and we'll call each other friends too for
Yeah,
for
man.
for our long
Absolutely.
relationship itself.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm grateful. Listen, like, you know, they sent me a long list of things to potentially do, and I only wanted to do a few of them, and there was another guy, that I've done about 5 movies with thus far, and it's important to me, you asked to interview me back when nobody cared, so I'm very flattered and honored to have you chronicling this stuff, so maybe my kids someday can watch it and be like, oh, this guy, it's cool, man. I'm proud, so I'm looking forward to talking to you again.
Let's do this again. Thank you very much, John.
Buddy,
Thanks.
thank you.